I'm happy to introduce myself, but my connection's probably awful. Oh, that works.
Okay, it's better than David's. So.
Okay, good. Hi, everybody. I'm Simon. I was in the metro, so I just popped out and I'm sat down on a bridge. Just wanted to pop in and say hi. I have been doing contact libraries for a really long time. I'm really tired of it. I'm super happy that everything Christoph has given us the opportunity to do. It's super cool. Got my first library coming out soon. First HISE library coming out in a couple weeks, hopefully. And yeah, albeit superbooth too. So with Christoph is in the area. I don't know. Maybe we have an in-person meetup around superbooth time if anybody else is going.
Is anyone else going to superbooth?
Okay, just us then. And Dave.
Yes. Superbooth is like it's like an how is it like a meeting of modular synth nerds in Berlin, but it's also
synth heads.
Yeah, but it's weird because it's for one part of it is all these nerds are meeting and dragging cables around and discussing the new modular synth modules, and then there's this business side where all the people coming, since Berlin is like a little bit the Silicon Valley of audio technology. So almost everybody is going there to either do the modular synth stuff or doing business meetings.
I don't want you to judge me, but the only reason I'm going is because I've got a cousin who's releasing a synthesizer, so I think I'll be the Silicon Valley side.
Okay.
Forgive me, Christoph.
I also don't have too much love for this modular synth stuff, so I walk through the halls and one time, and then I'm done with it. But yeah. Anyways, I would just suggest that I start with the presentation of the things that I've been working on. I mean, do you have any preference with which thing I should start, sampler or profiler?
I just want to hear you monologue, Christoph. I'll sit here and listen to you monologue as long as you want.
Sampler.
Sampler?
Please.
Okay, all right, then I start with the sampler. Let me just, I think the best way would be if I change my screen resolution to something not 4K. And then I can share my screen. Okay, I'm going to start HISE now. I hope that my audio device won't stop. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. If I have to select the Windows driver before I start HISE. If I started with ASU, everything goes back and I have to rejoin the meeting. Anyways, I can now try to start the screen. To share the screen. That worked. Perfect. So can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yeah, we see it.
Yep.
And HISE is nice. Big enough for you to see stuff.
Yeah, it's about normal size.
Yeah.
If you have your screen open or your window expanded.
Okay. So let's see with the sampler. So basically, let me close that. So that should optimize the sampler workspace. So basically, I mean, before I go through the features, I just want to recap the initial idea that span off this feature. So basically, there was a suggestion, I think, from Aaron a few months ago, and it kind of touched a pain point in HISE, which were there for several years now. And basically, the problem is that you're kind of limited to this one axis of round-robin groups with this one additional property. Which is fine if you have a sampler that just needs round robins, or you can reuse it for dynamic X fades or stuff like that. But as soon as you try to use more than that for combining crossfades and round robins and so on, then it starts to become annoying. And I had to think about a solution that kind of kept like the original data layout and also like did not introduce any performance overhead. And so basically what I came up with was the idea to reinterpret this one number, which was assigned to round robin group, as like a bit mask. Since it's stored as like a 64-bit number, we have basically 64 binary or like bits that we can assign to any kind of data layout. And with this trick, we can fit multiple layers or like organizational things into this one number. So basically, this allows you to define like an arbitrary amount of layers. So layers is like is the speak for like round robin, table fate, X fate, and so on. And you can all combine it and assign different values to it. So basically, what you need to do in order to turn on this complex sampler feature is just to click this big fat button here. If this thing doesn't show up in your HISE, you have to reset the workspace. This will delete the entire layout and recreate the interface. It will also create, where is it? It will also create this profiler manager, which is also new. And basically now you have the ability of create multiple layers and then assign samples to it. But again, like the UX of this entire part is a little bit weird. So I'm happy for like suggestions how to make it better. So basically, let's just the process would be to load in a sample map. I've used the samples from the mariachi trumpet that David, you sent it to me for the release trigger training data. So I kind of just loaded that in, and currently it's just mapped to the sample number. This means you can see if you select one sample, you have like how many? One selected sample HISE. Wow. You can see you have multiple samples that are assigned to this sample number. And let me just turn up show you the tokens. I mean, currently for this, it doesn't make too much sense, but we can see we have a few tokens that we can now assign to different things. So for example, the easiest or like the first setting is to just like define a round robin layer. And this basically, if you press the plus button, then you can create multiple layers that each operate on this round robin index. So in order to replicate the basic round robin behavior, we just have to select our samples, and then we can choose which token in the file name should be assigned to the round robins. So in this case, we just click on this one, and then it deduces from the sample selection the actual tokens and assigns it to group values. And if we now click on the add new layer, then we have like a round robin group of with 3 samples. Sorry, 3 groups. And it will also like extend the table and show the property in here. So basically, before you had this here just like the round robin group with the index, and here it can resolve it to the proper name. So if you have actually round robin samples, it would say RR1, RR2, and so on. So now you can repeat this process and add like another layer. For example, let's do this X fate layer, which is a new layer. And here we use file tokens. And for example, now we want to we have close, mid, and room, I think. I mean, these are my positions, but now if we want to make these, for example, like an X-fade layer, we can just click on it and then it assigns a new one. We have to set up linear, RMS, and so on. This is not like the table X-fade layer, but like an additional layer that allows different source types for the fade. So basically, this allows you to do multi-dimensional fading. So you can, for example, do both X-fade layers between the dynamics as well as between vibrato and non-vibrato and so on. While with the old layout, you were limited to like one-dimensional axis of fading. So basically here we can, one thing to know is that that this X-fade layer does not use the modulation of the group fade. This is still reserved to the table fade layer for backwards compatibility. But you can use any kind. You can use these 3 different event sources. So either directly MIDI CC. So you just want the pitch bend to operate on the data, or like the CC1, and it will automatically process this value. You can attach it to a global modulator. Currently, there's nothing in there. Or you can use this event data slot system, which allows polyphonic values to be sent via scripting or script node. And again, if you can see now, the table also extended it with the additional layer. But as you can see, for some reason, I think that's still a glitch. The samples have not been assigned correctly. So I can show you how to do this dynamically. So basically, if you click on this button, it will show you how many samples are assigned to each group. And if you click on these little pop-ups, it will select the samples. And you can see there's some kind of irregularity, I think, because I don't have like the full sample set. So there are some gaps in the node. But if you click on here, you can see there's always 0 samples. And like all samples are in the unassigned category. So in order to assign them, I have to click on this layer, and then it will open like the parser menu. And in here, I can either set it to like a fixed value. So now all are set to the mid group, or I can use the file token. Oops. Now, and say, okay, these are my mid tokens, and then it will perform the same process. And now it distributed them across all the values. And you can see now it also uses the token and displays it in the table thing. But again, like this entire UI is a little bit all over the place. So maybe I need some feedback for this, obviously. But basically, that's like the gist of it. There are a few more like logic layer types that I will implement over the time. Not all of them are functional right now. I think key switch also works, which you can just like assign a start key switch and then say I want it to be the white keys or chromatic, and it will automatically implement this functionality. So you basically can implement key switching without having to script anything. Then like legato samples is the same thing. It will implement the monophonic legato by supplying the lowest and highest node, and then it will activate the group which is about to play if you play the legato node. Yeah, but basically that's like about the gist of it.
How does the legato work again?
Sorry?
How does legato work?
So basically, with the old system, what you had to do, or how I implemented, I actually never worked on a real world Legato project, by the way. But
Lucky you.
what I was expecting for people to do is to like use this round robin feature to use the let me check, the start node of the Legato interval as round robin number, and then and the target node, and map the sample to the target node. So if you play a round robin transition, then you just set the active round robin group to the start node number, and then it automatically selects the correct start sample. And basically, I've taken this feature and transformed it or made it possible to do this without any scripting at all.
So I didn't really understand that, but so I play a note, and it's legato, and I play C1, and then I play C2. So in fact, I fade from C1 into a note that is going from C1 to C2, and then out of that note into C2. So in fact, I'm playing 3 samples, yeah?
It depends on whether you have like 3 samples or if you have like 2 samples and you bake the legato transition in there. There's like different approaches to this.
But real legato requires 3 samples, right?
Yes, sure. I mean, what you can do is to like bake in this legato into the legato sample. So you basically end up with only 2 samples, but if you have 3 samples, it doesn't really matter because the functionality is the same. Like the tricky part is to know which legato transition to play.
Yeah, and so I press C1 and then I press C2. So I have to work out.
If you press C1 and then press C2, it would select like C1 as like a round robin group would be like 36 or something like that. So it would say, you would call set enable group 36, and then it will select like any node that goes from C1 to wherever, and then it uses the node that's mapped to C2, so it plays the C1 to C2 in legato interval. This is basically the idea of, or like the way how I would approach legato sampling. And I've just put that logic into this one organizational layer that you can do without any kind of, without scripting necessary.
Okay.
Hello.
I'm still confused.
You've just missed the best bit, Christoph. That's absolutely ridiculous. It's amazing, and I can't wait to tell all my contact friends about it.
But it's still not doing real legato. It's just not.
Sorry?
It's not doing real legato. So all my clients go into a studio and record a violin, and they play C1, and then they play C1 to C2. They get that, and then they play C1 to E1 and C1 to D1, etc., etc. So they play all the intervals, right? And then they play each of the notes, right? So you have a note and a transition sample and a final note. And for each note, there are a huge number usually of transition notes. So I'm playing C1 and it's legato. So the available legato transitions are C1 to C sharp 1, C1 to D1, C1 to D sharp 1, C1 to E1, C1 to F1, yeah? And then, so I have those transitions, and then I play the final note. So I'm playing C1 to F1.
Demo.
I play C1. I get a trend, and then I press F1. So I then fade C1 into the transition from C1 to F1, and then I fade the transition into F1. 3 notes, 3 samples. Yeah.
Yes.
That's classically how everybody does it in Context.
Yes, and but like the first and the third note have nothing to do with legato. These are just
that's correct. They're just the bog standard notes, right?
Exactly, and basically, so like the the difficult part is to get like the organization right, which legato transition sample to play, like the thing in the middle, right?
That is correct, because they're very difficult to map.
Yeah, basically, and this is precisely where this logic layer comes in. So basically, I've created just like one of them, which starts with C4 to G5, something like this. So basically, this is like, you can now expect that you have like legato samples mapped from to every node in here, right?
Yes.
So if I now play, oops, where is it? Here we are. Maybe I delete these samples so it doesn't. So basically what it does now is if I'm now pressing C4 and now I'm playing E4, right?
Sure.
And I want the legato sample to play the transition from C to E.
Yes.
So what happens here is if I play C4 and now I press the E4, the E key, then you can see that it will enable the start node 72, which is in this case C4, and it will play the node that's mapped on the E key, which is like the transition from C to E. So basically, you can combine this with the sustain samples, and it will do the entire legato transition feature.
Okay, so go back to give us the HISE a second.
Yeah, sure.
So these things that are mapped here in this lower section, they're only the transitions.
Yes.
Right. Okay. I think I get what it's doing.
But again, since this is just like one of multiple layers, you can just like assign this layer to a certain subset of the samples.
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
Now
so I can do that. So I can do this assignment like this. I can do that for microphone layers and for crossfades and for whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
The thing that Aaron and I were talking about in that original email course.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. And you can also, like in this case, for these legato things, you can also tell samples to ignore that layer entirely and just play it normally, which you would do with the sustain samples if you want to have them mapped in the same sample map. So basically, this also is kind of this entire approach starts to deviate a little bit from my initial paradigm of making like one sampler for every kind of logic group. Because I noticed that in many cases you actually want them to be like in one sound generator. For example, if you have the legato samples separately in another module, you would have to duplicate the entire mixer section and so on. So basically, it makes sense to have them like in one playback engine.
Okay, Simon has something to say.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Christoph, quickly, I'm going to repeat what David said as well. I'm really curious to see, because right now we kind of put everything in separate samplers, so we'll have all the sustains in one sampler and then do all the legato scripting in another one, and then switch between them with mutes or with MIDI or something. Here, how would you go about, because a lot of the legato sampling stuff is tweaking the timings and the attacks and the attack shape and the length of the sample, and I guess, is it still, can you put the sustains and the legatos all in one sampler, or are we still just controlling it with envelopes on two separate samplers? Or do you have to build out a whole bunch of stuff for legato stuff?
You can put it in one sampler. So basically, let me just reload this. Okay, now it just recreate the project. I'm just loading the sampler with this. Okay, perfect. Let me just restart HISE. The idea is that you can so the technical implementation works through an ignore flag, which you can set for any sample, and this tells the group manager to ignore like any logic coming from this group. So basically, you would, for example, if you have like let me see if Why doesn't it work now? It worked before.
It's because you're doing a demo.
Yeah, great stuff. Yeah, let's just throw them in again. All right. So basically now we have like a now, yeah, let's create this legato layer. Say again C3 to whatever. That won't work. Node name. Okay, well, these are not real legato samples anyway. But for example, let's assume that these samples are legato samples and these are the sustained samples, right? Bear with me, they are mapped completely off the place. But in this case, what you would then need to do is to assign these samples to the file tokens. Let me see if it works now. Great stuff. Yeah, would have to, it would be helpful to have actual legato samples for this step. Okay, it messes up. But basically, if you assign only a subselection of the samples to the layer, and then you can set the ignore flag for to the other layers, then you can implement having them in the same sampler.
I guess the simpler version of the question is there a way to have a different attack and release time for the legato samples than for the sustained samples if they're in one sampler?
I mean, sure, I mean, the easiest option would be to just like have the attack time modulator and then have like a script that picks up the value, whether it's like a legato transition or not.
Okay, got it.
So basically, what I haven't done yet is the scripting API for this. But basically, what you can do here, so I'll just sketch out how it would work in the end. So on voice start, you can just say sampler get layer value for the voice index. Let's call it legato. This is just a stupid pseudocode and won't work, but it will somehow work like this. And then you can say if voice index is not -1, this means that this is a legato sample. You can return 0, which would be like the full attack time. Otherwise, return or whatever you want to do to make like a short layer. I mean, I can extend this legato feature to automatically add like this, automatically add like fade-ins and so on. But that's like a more advanced feature I would implement down the road when this gets some actual real-world coverage.
Well, you've made me. I said I was releasing in 2 weeks, but you've now made me want to redo my whole library with this, which is probably a mistake. But
yeah, you can do the next one. So I wouldn't hold my breath for this being production ready within the next 2 months or so. Let me check if David.
We do need to tweak the envelope, but again, so it's also from the distance from one to the other and how quickly you're playing, and yeah, it's full of horrors.
Yeah, but you could like basically one other thing would be like to add like a sample start modulator to like be able to go to jump into the legato transition for like fast runs and so on. But again, this can be also be achieved with the same thing as here, where you can just like grab the value and see if it's a legato value, and in here you can message get velocity times some, for example, like this. But this allows you to get like very granular control without like having all this bookkeeping stuff for the basic legato transition handling, which is a pain to set up.
Yeah, that's lovely if you can do that.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, like getting legato right is like an art form for itself, but the idea of this process is to get like the boilerplate stuff, which is just like the organizational thing. I press an interval, please play the correct note. That this is basically can be done without any scripting, and then you can concentrate on the juicy stuff that makes like the sound good, stuff like this.
Yeah, this is really. I have to run, so I'll get on the soapbox one more time. But Christoph, this is incredible. We don't deserve you. The anecdote is that in the contact days, we would literally do this thing. I put it in the chat. I guess it's there. But we would do basically what you're doing here, where we would search for tokens and click the button that says these are RR1, these are RR2, these are legatos. Except it's all in the UI of contact, which is all running in the audio thread. And then it's only stored in the persistence of that one NKI. And we shipped this stuff in hundreds of NKIs and tons of libraries. I don't want to say that there's one feature that's a contact killer, but it's really incredible. I'm so thankful to have found this, and I can't wait to start using it and become an absolute evangelist for this.
Yeah, sure.
Until AI comes and takes all our jobs. I've got to run, guys. Thank you so much for the call.
Yeah.
See you in the next one.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Must be me. Any tips? Yeah. Well, David also has problems with the setup. But not sure. So basically, I can hear anyone. So.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it just asked me whether or not I want to use my device, my microphone. It was like the normal question to use.
Yeah. Also, my device
audio.
also had the wrong default value, so I had to pick the correct one. Maybe.
Yeah.
Also, you're muted.
Fiddle in the setting.
So it's been this. Yeah, basically, I just demonstrated the start of the complex group management so far. I don't think we need to recap this, but I mean, we are recording this, right? Yeah, there's the red button. But anyways, welcome, Aaron. I think it's the first time you're on this meetup. So great to kind of speak to you. So
yeah, I believe he can't hear us right now, but Christoph, I have to say that's seriously
okay.
work on the sampler.
So but now going forward, I think I need the some input would be great for like or maybe I need to like clean it up a little bit more before we get into the step. But is there any what maybe is the most confusing thing on the UI for you at this point? Or is it like is the general concept, is it clear, or should I expand more on that? And it's just like about where these buttons are located and how they look.
I mean, I'm Chris. I still got my list for optimization causes, but this gets a little bit better with the kind of interface. And I think there's also work to be done to get this kind of layer, what is now with this kind of layer thing, to be more like, okay, what exactly is this in between? You said it right now that the kind of, you know, like the mappings, but also like the layer. I think there's a little bit of low-hanging fruits, like this double with the buttons, the icons in the top, that they can be combined. The assignment could be more precise. I mean, I got some stuff, and I think it actually will take some weeks, months till this is a little bit more like in place, also for documentation causes. I mean, right now it's really like a beta thrown at us, and then let's try to get some use cases up and then try to optimize on this.
Yeah. So basically, David, you mean can the XFAT be user assignable? You mean like this bad boy here? Where was it? Ah, okay. Classic. Did somebody play this? Ah, nice. So every time HISE is crashing, somebody plays that sound. Oh, okay, great stuff. So I think I need to enter something here. Okay, now. You mean like these properties, whether they are like scriptable and so on? Sure. Like the entire idea is to have like an access to all of this using properties through scripting too. I mean the like the amount of layers are kind of static. I don't know any kind of use case where you want to dynamically change like the amount of layers. But sure, setting the actual CC for in there, or like for example, with the key switch, layer, for example, where the assignment should start and where there should be chromatic and not. Like this will be definitely user assignable along with the rest of the API methods. Hi, Chess, Tony. Yeah, sure. Having a great day, great stuff. Aaron, not so much, but okay. All right, but is there any other kind of feedback at this point? I mean, it's definitely overwhelming at this point, and I'm sure I haven't done my best to try to present this feature because like it's at this pretty raw state at the moment. But I mean, I can imagine that this will be like a really nice addition to HISE and kind of bring that sampler workspace a little bit more into the present or future. The problem for me with all these kind of things is that I hardly have any projects that I'm doing for myself that require me to actually do some sample work. But yeah. Oh, Heisenberg, yeah, yes, please.
Hi.
Ah, yes. Aaron, is that you?
Oh, yeah. You can hear me?
Ah, okay. Now we can hear you.
Awesome. Great.
So nice to meet you. So
nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. The app's finally working.
Yeah.
All right.
So Heisenberg, you wanted to say something, or because you've made this
Wait,
hand
hold on.
gesture? Okay, then. So basically, Aaron, I was just showing like the complex group manager thingy in here, and basically trying to give to gather some feedback about how to proceed from the state where it's sitting right now to a state where it's actually usable. I'm not sure. Have you played around with it yet a little bit already, or?
I have, but this week is supposed to be the week that I try to implement some of the stuff that I did with the old sampler, right? And
Okay.
It's the complex, stuff which has like I don't know, 5 different tokens for the entire instrument. So yeah, I guess in a couple of days I'll be able to tell you exactly what's wrong. But I'm sorry I missed whatever briefing you were giving out here.
Yeah, nice. So you will be definitely running into unimplemented things or like UX chaos, but I think we all are accustomed to that by now with HISE.
Yeah.
So
well, I'll just be adding to the file of the bug reports.
Yeah. All right. Should I then proceed over to the profiler and talk about that a little bit? Or if anyone has still questions or like feature wishes. Oh, I found.
I have a quick question, actually.
Yeah, sure.
It's a little bit out of my work here, because I'm really just working with MIDI, but I'm of course curious about what's going with the virtual instruments and how they operate. So when you're showing me this stuff about the round robins here, it's not directly what I'm working on, but I'm very interested in the outcomes of what you're making with it. But out of curiosity, is there any implementation of some type of sample interpolation instead of crossfading like amplitude? Do you have other methods of like morphing the samples from one type to the next?
What other sample algorithms are there?
Well, I'm curious about, say, here's a use case example for strings. If you're using sol tasto and then sol pont, for instance, the difference in timbre between those two, and these are usually sampled as one set, set of samples as the sol pont, one set as the sol tasto. So they're kind of two extremes of where you are playing with the bow, right, compared to where the bridge and the neck is. Do you have any plans, or is there something already implemented that works to interpolate between those two, so you could have a continuous controller going from sol pont to sol tasto samples without sampling lots of points in between and making up lots of, taking up lots of space?
Are you liking the frequency domain?
Yeah, some kind of interpolation between the two samples so that they can one can become the other, some kind of fluid morphological change. So
there's either crossfading or the frequency. They're your choices, yeah. But unless it's something
yeah,
else.
I would guess I'm referring to something that requires an FFT.
Well, what you're talking about is it's not exactly a HISE issue. It's a if you have two samples and they're not phase aligned, when you start cross fading, you're not gonna get the same, I guess. You're gonna get phasing, right? And even if you were to morph between them, you would not get the same pitch because they're not at the same, I guess, frequency. So what you really need is to phase align them, and then you need to morph between the FFTs. That would be how I would do it, right?
Okay. I was just curious if that was something that was already implemented, or it's an idea to be implemented into the sampling system.
You mean like the one that's in Contact?
I don't know exactly what's under the hood in Contact.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking conceptually, but I know it's. Go ahead.
Sorry, go on.
The AET filter thingy.
Yeah.
What's that?
Right. Basically, it lets you scan individual frequency bins of a given sample set or a sample for every other sample, and then you decide which one's like the master, and you assign a controller, and then you crossfade between the target FFT on the AET filter and back to your original sample. But the problem still remains with that, in that it will not cover the noise component, right? And nor will it cover the frequency behavior of your target sample, which is a big part of sol tasto. It just happens to be something that I'm currently working on. So
yeah, nice.
Yeah, so I think like in the end, it all comes down to like how you process your recorded samples offline before you throw it in the playback engine. I mean, there are a few like dedicated engines which try to do this in real time, like the Sound Paint from, how's it called? Guys.
Yeah, it was ADO, right?
ADO.
No, it was.
Yeah, ADO. Yeah, right.
ADO. Or whoever's behind that, right?
Yeah, but that's kind of their unique selling proposition for the sampler engine. So I don't think that this would be like a good
Let's do
fit
that
for
next.
like a general purpose sampler playback engine, because there's like too much involved about like the process from preparing the samples to work within the stuff. Also,
But
like
even if you do, you're still
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah,
I was
sorry.
just
Go ahead.
curious about the state of the technology here. Just asking a question.
Yeah, no,
just to
it's
see.
at the moment it's all like fading between samples, and it's going to stay like this for a while. So yeah. But yeah, maybe we just move over to the profiler thingy. And I try to do the same type of presentation I did with the sampler manager. And then maybe we can talk about ways how to use this and leverage this. So this is a little bit more advanced on the UX side. I've been doing a session today with Dominic where I've refined a little bit more of this stuff. But again, I'm happy for any kind of feedback about this. So basically, the idea behind this profiling toolkit is to expand on the existing Perfetto implementation, which allowed us to measure like how long it takes for something to run, and also give like the detailed insights about like the inner workings and the multi-threading behavior of what happens behind the scenes. And I noticed that there were multiple different I noticed there were multiple different solutions in HISE for profiling and measuring stuff, and I kind of reworked it and redesigned it into one consistent toolkit. So basically, maybe we start with this with this profiler. So basically, what I wanted to do is to get like a quick overview of how long something takes, as well as the ability to really dive into and dissect the actual tree. So basically, we have this new button at various locations in HISE, which do like a scope profiling session. And they also contain like something that I would call a heat map, or like other call mustard yellow. So basically, as soon as you start, let me just, I think the MIDI processor is.
Sorry, are you showing your screen?
Didn't I show my screen?
It's all black for me. I'm just asking whether it's
Oh,
just
I
me
can
or
see
someone
it.
else.
Yep.
Maybe
Okay.
I stop it and do it again.
The rest of us can all see it.
Maybe because you joined later on, maybe. Can you see it now?
Yeah, I can see it now. Thanks.
Okay. Maybe it's because you joined after I started the screen meeting. Maybe it's a glitch in Jitsi. Yeah, whatever. So anyway, so basically, once we start profiling, it will show like a live heat map of the stuff that takes the longest amount of time. And if you stop profiling, then it will show you like a detailed graph of how long it takes. So in order to, let's go from the top to the bottom, and I'll explain what everything does. So basically, what this function did was measure each time the audio buffer was filled by HISE. And you can see like the total performance, the total graph of the performance over here. So basically, it executed 400 times. My buffer size is, I think, 500 per samples right now. So every 11 milliseconds, there will be another buffer that needs to be filled. And this timeline below shows like how the average buffer runtime worked. So basically, you can see here like the performance graph, which is more or less like this thing that you can see in real time here. but like in a recorded base. And now you can go into individual executions of each buffer and try to analyze the stuff. You can also like quickly jump to the one with the highest runtime to spot any kind of peaks and profiles. Is there any Bill? Bill is there. Hi, Bill.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah, I'm currently showing the profiling toolkit. Can you share? Can you see my screen?
Absolutely.
Okay. Because Aaron had problems. All right. Yeah, and from here, I'm not sure how many of you have like experience with other profilers or toolkits like this. Because basically, I try to like leverage, or I try to use like some of the known things in different profilers. Like basically you have now the audio buffer, and now you have like a tree view of like how long the individual things took for it. For example, here we can see that like a reverb processed 3% of my audio buffer usage. I mean, it's a debug build, that's why it's so slow at the moment. But this way you can quickly see where it takes the longest time. And down here you have like the full statistics where you can actually see the numbers. Apart from that, like you have basic navigation control click sets a new route. So if you have like a complex layout, you can go in there via SD zooms the nodes. Aaron, I had to change Q and E back to up and down. I couldn't. My fingers.
It's okay.
I almost broke my fingers while scrolling. So, but you have your up down functionality. It's just QE now. But yeah.
Wait, sorry, what did you say? Q&E is now up and down?
Yes.
Okay,
I've talked with Dominic about 2 minutes, and we settled on E being down and Q being up. We have to like change the dimension from X to Y, and this caused some issues.
I mean, it's fine. I'll just remap it on my keyboard software, right?
I mean, you can also go in the HISE source code and change it in there.
That's true. I recently started doing that. So.
But actually, I don't know whether what I think you're using it a little bit different than me, because I almost never need to use this full to use this feature. But anyways, but basically, let's get back to the mode of explanation. Basically, what you have here is the profile of the DSP engine of the entire signal graph in HISE. Then you have the same thing, but for the user interface. I mean, now it's an empty interface, so it just like tells you where the content is. Let me just load up the demo. So basically, if I now profile this and wiggle around the interface to cause a repaint, you can quickly see in the...
Hold on a minute. None of
Yeah, what exactly are we looking at here?
We're looking at somebody who's turned the whiteboard on.
Sorry?
Chris, we have the whiteboard on, and everyone is like painting on, or like.
But why?
You have to switch back to your paint view.
I haven't done anything.
That's weird.
Maybe here. Okay.
No, I did it. I clicked on the icon. I had no idea that it would open for everyone.
Of course.
I've never used this app before. Sorry.
Okay. No worries. Let's go back to whatever it was you were doing.
But I need to share my screen again, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you still seeing the whiteboard?
We were for a second. Yeah, that is the whiteboard.
That's the whiteboard, and now that's HISE?
Yeah, HISE demo plugin.
Okay, perfect. All right. So basically, the same process that we have like for the DSP profiling, we also have for the user interface. So basically, whenever the interface is being repainted, it measures the time how long it takes for each profile, and then you can see it quickly. So in this case, you can see that the bulk of the time is spent in the velocity table repaint, and you can even see that it's being repainted with 111 frames per second, which basically just calculates the amount of time it would need to just render that component. And in this, basically, this is like just the high level. Let me check. Maybe I just do like a quick demo.
Is it always pushing it as fast as it possibly can, right? Is that what it's measuring?
Sorry?
You mentioned the frame rate. So is it always pushing the interface, as fast as it possibly can?
No. If it says it's being rendered with 111 frames per second, it doesn't mean that it will actually calculate this and re-render it 111 times per second. It's just that it takes like if you would constantly repaint it, then it would yield a frame rate of this amount.
Okay, that's frame time basically, right? That's what you mean.
I mean, every time like you can see like how it jitters, and every time you do this, it will cause a repaint. So you can see how I mean, it is now it repainted it 350 times. But I can also like show you the if I now so
spoiler.
So if I now have like this it's called, then you can also see like the actual paint call and
holy shit,
how long it takes.
That's really cool.
So maybe if we shameless plug for this new syntax, and for example, if we have like multiple different different calls, draw text, align text. Again. Okay, now we have to, for example, now you can see that like the set color is basically instantly, and draw text is also pretty good. However, if you draw, I think if you make something like this, let's give it another color. Of course. Then you can see how like the fill ellipse is kind of outshadowing the draw text call. I mean, currently you have to take all these values with a grain of salt because I'm running the debug build, but that's a really good way to fetch the to get like a quick overview of which paint calls take the longest time. So one other thing that you can do with the profiler is to, I mean, let's just do this script node workspace for the completion before we head to the other thing. Basically, you have the same thing in here. If I just like drag this in, now I can see that like the oversample, it spends the most time in doing the actual oversampling, and the actual process of the gain node is pretty fast in here. And again, it shows like this yellow mastery heat map where you can see on one with one glance which is the worst offender. So if you have something like this, and you are asking yourself, well, what takes the longest time, and in this case it's the reverb. Still like the whoa, I have to no. So yeah, basically this gives you the ability of quickly checking that. Also, once you have like a script node enabled in the process, then the profiling of the DSP also involves the actual script node chain. So basically it goes from the entire audio buffer rendering from HISE down to the process block into the individual script nodes. So yeah, you can use that. So before I head over to how it interacts with the scripting and the multi-threading profiling session, has anyone any questions about this?
I have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Can that also show time in milliseconds and samples?
Yes, of course. So you mean like you don't want to have this? Basically, you have the option of selecting different time domains, and it picks a sensible default. So if you're running the if you're doing this, then it picks like the frame rate, but you can just right click and use absolute timing.
Okay.
And relative. I mean, audio buffer size is not the best thing for this case, but yeah, sure, you can change these.
Okay, I just wanted to see that. Thanks.
Okay, because then I will go down to like the big boy of the profiling toolkit, because up until now we only had like these scope profiling sessions which took a peek into like individual parts of HISE, and which allow you to make a fine-grained analysis of different parts of it. However, there's also the ability of profiling the entire multi-threading that happens behind the scenes in HISE, and this is in this Profile Manager tab. So basically, I just started, and now currently, what happened is that it recorded like how many 1 second, and then now it displays it in the entire thing in one timeline. So basically, you can see that here, like what the stuff. Okay. Sorry. Stop. Okay. Is this perfetto with the new sexy UI? Yes. Yes, exactly. But also, like, I kind of perfetto always keep breaking for me, and when I came back after months, then the web page didn't load, and it was kind of a frustration. Also, I needed. I think it was too verbose in the sense that it was very hard to cut through the noise and get to the information that you're after. So that's why I kind of. I mean, I started back when I started this feature. I just want to expand it a little bit, and then I had like 30% of the perfetto feature set, and then and then I thought, okay, now I have to do the full stuff. But yeah. But again, now we can see the scripting thread has joined the other ones. So basically, what happens with the timer callback, which is maybe not the most intuitive thing which you would expect at the beginning, but the timer thread runs on the scripting thread and not on the UI thread, and it causes a repaint. So basically, if we go into the timer thread, it says the timer callback causes the repaint call, and this causes the paint routine to be executed, and shortly after the paint callback will be executed. There's this function. I'm currently rewriting that part, so bear with me. But there's always the function of making like an event flow graph. So basically, the timer callback triggers the callback from the UI thread. Then it runs it on the scripting thread. This calls the paint routine to, here we are, repaint this graph. This is also like a good way of analyzing the interdependencies between different threads. Also, like one important thing to figure out, paint. Is that remember when we use these calls here, and okay, I need to. Why don't they show up anymore? Weird. Glitchy. Okay. Anyway, these calls, these are not the actual scripting calls, but these are like the draw commands that are being rendered on the UI thread. If you want to actually profile the scripting call, you can do so by enabling a scope, enabling the scripting profiling, and you can do so with the scope statement .profile and then give it some ID. If you do so, you will see that there will it will show like the runtime of it, and you can also click on it, and then you can see like the actual script command with the same interface like the audio and like all these scope profile sessions. Also, I record it now, and now it will also show the entire thing in the audio in the multi thread session. By the way, this is also like a good way of navigating the profiler. So if you have like this big project with lots of things going on, and you just want to profile a different part, you can just give it some ID, and then you can search here for some ID, press enter. Oh no, but
You need the D.
Sorry?
You need the D. You just typed some I.
I think I know now this nice zoom effect. Yeah. It needs the exact match. I think you can also click in here. But this was also like one of the big pain points in the Perfetto implementations, where you had to query this huge amount of data set. But yeah. So basically, that's like about it. I mean, I can also like show you. Maybe you can copy and paste the stuff, truncate it. Also, if you, so is it pasting? I think we got that kind wrong. It's the other way around, right? Okay. I think I messed up the symbols for this button. Because I kind of wanted to be able to copy and paste these profiling sessions for quick debugging, that you can post it in the forum. So if you record something, now I hope I pressed the correct one. Perfect. So basically what you can see here is just like a string that contains the entire profiling session. So if I make a new one, we just restart HISE and then just paste it. Nice. Then you can just load in this this profiling session. This is also the way how you would interact with like end users if you are kind of troubleshooting stuff on their end, because you can also programmatically call this. Like I'm clicking this profiling button every time, but you can also just like call this session, and then it will also like record this, and I think No, I think the syntax is different. Yeah, and now it expects a callback, which then you can save to a file, so that the end user can send it back to you or whatever. So this is like for like these advanced kind of troubleshooting sessions. The idea, but yeah. So basically, that's like the current state. I'm trying to. I mean, I need to add more functionality to it, add more functions that are measured. But I think this will, in the long run, this will be like a really valuable tool for any kind of debugging.
Very impressive.
I mean, I can also maybe let's end with that one. So, for example, it also gives you the ability of debugging server calls. So let's see if I can one-shot this. So basically, it also like gives you the ability of debugging server calls in a timeline, just like you know it from like whenever you debug something in the internet browser. In order to do so, or maybe no, let's not do this. So if I think I need to raise the limit of how long I recorded. Also, you can filter different threads and event types and so on, but it's
Holy shit!
It's basically pretty self-explanatory with these help buttons.
I like how you're just inventing this new syntax, by the way.
Which syntax?
Well, this whole thing, right? I haven't seen this. This is like this is a scoped call or whatever it's called, right? That's what you
mean
just
this
did
one?
right here. Yeah.
I mean it's not the latest edition. I think it's been sitting there for quite a while, but there's a bunch of statements that operate like on a scope. For example, you can, like the easiest thing to grasp would be this one. So basically, what this does, it is a scoped setter that sets like a variable to one value, and when it goes out of scope, it sets it back to whatever it was before. Which is good if, for example, if you're doing something and like a script error is here, or you forget to set it back to the to 0 at the end. If you do some spurious branch like this, and you forget to set it back to 0, this will always run once this going over the scope. So either here or there. And basically, I can use this this construct for any kind of language feature which requires like a guaranteed cleanup phase. So basically, what you can also do is, for example, you can lock the UI thread for the time being, and it's guaranteed to unlock it once this goes out of scope. And I'm just reusing this for all this profiling stuff because it gives me a clear start and end time. So basically, I can just say I want it from here to there, and I don't need to care about when it returns. But yeah, anyways. No, perfect. So as you can see now there's the server thread, and now we go in here, and we can see now here's the call with get. This causes this server thread to spawn, wait for the request for 100 milliseconds. Does this? Okay, the control callbacks. And once this is done, it will then call the callback, the actual callback, and which then goes back to the scripting thread, waits for the script log. That's a bit weird, and then it executes the actual call. And if you turn on this draw tracks feature, then you can see like the dependency graph. So call with get causes the request, which causes the callback to be executed back on the thread. Also, if you right click on these things, you can see the actual parameters that are called. So if you have multiple calls with different endpoints, you can see both the parameters as well as the URL. And I think somewhere you can see the response. Yeah, here's the response from the server. So basically, this is kind of the functionalities was a little bit there in the server request already, but this kind of puts it on a new level for the debugging. Sounds right.
I'm sorry to interrupt for 1 second. Did we establish if this is still being recorded?
I still see the
I got it.
big button
Cool.
here. So
My tiny mind is not getting all of this. But
yeah,
okay,
sure.
cool.
I mean, it's definitely overwhelming, and I'm trying to wrap my head around how to approach this to write some documentation for this, because it's a really complex topic, and as you can see, it goes right into the guts of how the different threads interact with each other. But yeah, I think for me it's definitely like a perfect tool for myself to figure out some bugs. For example, if you record this, if I record the compilation process, you can see it compiles the script, and then after that, it will call the control callbacks, which happen after the script is executed, which is like one of the things that's I think has been a pain point for you, Bill, in the past. But it's only executed once, as you can see. So yeah. But yeah, I think that's about it. Like there was one question. Okay, Linton, bye. He has already left the chat. Okay. Could we have a copy paste option to get the raw text data? Actually, there's like lots of data, so I have to compress it. I mean, you can see if I just like make it for this little wrong button. Lol. Like this button also already creates like 2 kilobytes of text. So if I would dump that into like a JSON file, then it would be like maybe 10 times the amount, which is not really. But yeah, I mean, what you can also do is to like if you have like this big profiling session and you somehow let's simulate this. So now we have this profiling session, and we just want to. So if we copy this now, then it's huge chunk of text, 12 kilobytes. But if only that's like the interesting part, we can use this copy the current displayed range into a new profiling session. Basically, this truncates everything that's not visible here, and puts it into like a new session. So if we copy that now, then it's much smaller. Then it's only 3,000 characters. So basically, this is like an ability to bring down the size, so people don't paste these 500,000 character monsters into the HISE forum.
Is it possible to profile compiled networks so we can compare the compiled to the uncompiled?
Currently, I mean, you can only see. I mean, I can just like make like one. You can't look into it, but you can obviously you can compare like the runtime between like the compiled one and the uncompiled one. If you, I'm just reloading now that that network as a hard-coded effect, and then we can see how much of a difference there is. Okay. So as you can see, the process block gives you like the ability to inspect that, but the hard code thing is, as you can see, it's like a black box, and you can see it takes almost the same amount. But again, this is the debug build, so any information in here is completely worthless about like a real assessment of how fast it is. But what I can show you, for example, is if I do something that's definitely going to be much slower in a non-compiled version, would be the frame modulation. Let's take a peek. Maybe clear the signal, make a ramp. Something. So now if I'm compiling that, it takes about 10%. Again, debug, don't mind. In release, it would be a few percent, maybe 1 or 2. But if I compile this now, I think I have to reload it. Ah, interesting. Okay, that's weird. Ah, I haven't loaded anything in here. Okay. So now we can see like this takes 10% and this takes like basically this is 10 times as fast. But again, debug build. But why is this appearing here? Is there some? Ah, funky. Can see how HISE was hiding the script effects from me, but the profiler showed it. So anyway, now we can see like the different that it takes.
If you export the plugin now, is the performance difference still going to be what you showed here?
For this particular network, yes, it would be, because here, as soon as you're doing anything with the frame to block, you basically have to compile it, because you're running this operation on every sample, which is completely completely unnecessary. But again, I'm running in the debug build, so expect it to be like about 10 to 15 times faster in the end. And also there's lots of overhead that is added to it inside there. But basically the performance within HISE in the release build of HISE and the compiled plugin is not much different. There's like some tiny overhead for some debugging stuff. But yeah. Yeah, but
Chris, you
basically that's about it. I'm
could
happy.
show the project load, the auto project load. You know, this with the flag.
Yeah. Good stuff. So basically, in this recording session, you can tell it how long it should record. So basically, if you just want to record it for a short amount of time, this should be enough to get the overview of a few callbacks, and you can set it in the next thing that you can do is you can define triggers when it should start recording. Like these two are not implemented yet. I'll add these later. But what happens already is if you select this compile project load, then it will start a recording session every time you load a project or you hit compile. So if I hit now compile, you can see that it starts a profiling session, and it automatically ends it when the compilation is done. So you can basically inspect what happens on int callback, and this also works across project load. So if I now load our demo project here, you can see that it starts the recording and it shows us the entire phase of the project initialization. So basically it builds up the module tree, then it compiles the script, then it does something, then it loads the sample map, then it compiles the script again, and then it calls prepare to play and initialize the audio callback. And as you can see, during the entire time of the project, no audio callback is being executed because the engine is suspended. As soon as the project is loaded, the audio callback is back in action. So if you want to track down why if there are any parts in your project that take long amount of load, this is the way to approach it. So yeah, but I think that's about it for now. I'm happy to answer question. I just end the screen. Not this one. So yeah, Heisenberg, you want to say something?
Yeah, first of all, like, wow, this looks amazing. Can you guys hear me, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Like, this looks amazing. I'm super happy that you've done all this work, just because I'm currently on a project right now. It has has a fair bit of animations going on the front end, and I'm working like really hard to figure out why like 10% of the users of this plugin are having issues.
Mm-hmm.
So I am curious. I really like this feature of how you could allow users to run a profiling session and send that snippet back to you. How would that really work in an example? Would you just have a button that they could press to profile and then have that print on the plugin somewhere and they can send that back to you? Or would I need to create like a callback to create like a document that they could send to me, a text document?
No, it would exactly be with a button. So basically, I mean, we can replicate this really quick with the demo project. So one thing you have to watch out for, that you have to compile your project with this flag enabled, because by default the profiling toolkit is not part of a compile plugin. So it for performance reasons. So where is it? Include profiling toolkit.
So I think you'll need to share your screen again.
Sorry. Yeah. So basically, you have to put this into every OS you want to support. Where's Linux? Down there. And now if you export it, then the profiling toolkit is available. And then what you would do is somewhere on your user interface, you would just like add like one button, add a callback, and in this button you turn off save in preset, obviously. So whenever you hit this button, if value, then you would say thread start profiling. And now you can specify a duration that you want to record. And after that, a callback function 64. And this function is being executed as soon as the plugin is as the recording session is finished, with a string that contains the entire thing. So all you need to do is, for example, you can file system from absolute path. So basically, this would just like dump this thing into this file. Let's try it. So the screen is too big. This resolution, so it. I missed it. Okay, so if we now click this button, it starts the recording. But it doesn't stop it. So let's stop it. Let's see if it's written this. No, I think I did something wrong here. But basically, this should now write the start file, which then can the user send back to you, and you can just like copy it into the clipboard and load it in the profiler to inspect how it works.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you. I'll be able to sleep tonight.
Yeah, sure. Let me know if you need more guidance about this. Basically, this should work, but I haven't tested it in an actual plugin. Yes, David. David, do you want to say something? So you.
Your
Yes.
mic is shut off, David.
Yeah, his mic doesn't work, but he's writing the text. So you wouldn't want to do this in your release plugin? Yes. I mean, like the overhead of the actual profiling toolkit is not that big, but like there's no reason to like include this in your like actual production release. It's more like for this because like it also like requires an end user who's willing to work with you on troubleshooting the issue, which is not like the default end user. So for this case, it's good to have someone that you then just send this thing to, and then can analyze what went wrong. One thing to watch out is that you don't. I need to check why this didn't stop the recording, but you don't really need too much time for this, and because also like it quickly blows up the data. I mean, I have the option to exclude a few events. So in your case, maybe it would make sense to like give it something like maybe this broadcasters. So this would kind of limit the events that are recorded to the ones that you are interested in. I have to add this to the API method so that you can give this function like a JSON file with a JSON object with all the filters that you want to apply to the recording session. But that should be like a good addition to it. Yes, this it's also the flag is also in the Pro chooser. By the way, by default, it's deactivated by now, currently. So in the even in HISE itself, at some point I will enable it by default for the HISE standalone build. But right now you have to change the Pro chooser and set it to 1 and then recompile it in order to get this feature. but I expected to go into the default on in a few weeks or so. No, so basically I'm about to completely remove Perfetto from the HISE code base over time. I'm still making sure that there's no functionality inside Perfetto that can't be done, so that there's like no regression on the function side. But since this is directly replicating what Perfetto did, but with better integration, there's no need for me to keep that around. But maybe that's also something that we can discuss if someone has made some experience with Perfetto, which he would like to see translated over the new this new profiler. But if not, then not.
Yeah. Sorry, I was
yeah,
trying to
sure.
raise my hand, but anyway, there's a performance regression from Perfetto for bigger networks. I think we discussed it on the forum a couple of days ago, right? So if you just if you have a script node network of say 200 nodes and you just hit the profiling button and you pause it, it just freezes, right? And I think it's because you're drawing every one of these events individually. That's my guess. I have no other reason why it would freeze like that. So you said that you are going to look to address it, or at least I don't know. I had some ideas that maybe in Perfetto you have like the cascade of events in the node, or rather the network, right? So you press profile, and then every single node that ran, it just runs it. It displays it under its own parent node, and it goes up the hierarchy like that. So you could just fold it down. I don't know. I don't think you can do this yet here in this new profiler. It just shows all the events, and you can sort by like how long each one took, and find the culprit that way.
No, it basically it already supports like filtering and folding. You mean like basically you can do like this, or you can just like limit it to a new root and so. Do you mean this one, this function, or?
It's either that one or the one in the broadcaster, not the broadcaster, but the watch table. But if you take any node now and you just duplicate it a bunch of times, so take, I don't know, whatever you have here, duplicate it 5 times, and then duplicate that around 20 times, and just check out the performance. It might be different on Mac OS because Mac OS generally has worse UI performance for like the same CPU configuration, or rather the same.
I mean, I'm in the debug build, so this will okay. Okay, the debug build already choked on this. Yeah, I probably have to do some kind of optimization. However, I am like in a proper debug build. I can see if I have something lying around here. Not this one. No, I haven't compiled it. Okay, anyway, it's a bit faster, but yeah, I mean, I can definitely improve the performance, but actually it's better than I expected to be. So it's, for example, like it can display tens of thousands of elements with a rather good frame rate. What I'm not what I didn't expect from like the expectations I had after designing the script node workspace, for example, which is much slower. But yeah, I will probably have to pre-filter the stuff that isn't displayed and do some profiling of the profiler itself. But yeah.
Thank you. That's very impressive.
Sure. Thanks.
Yeah, I use the one in the Unreal Engine a lot, and it's very similar in the experience. I just think that the one thing that this one seems to be missing, or I don't remember finding it, is making like and being able to profile individual function calls in the script, right? It just says script, like the script execution, and that's it.
No, you can like I mean, it will still profile the entire thing, but you can limit it. Can filter it for this. So for example, if you do if you start a scope, my scope, and now you now it only profiles the scope. It also shows like the heat map of where it spends the most time, which is in the for loop. And if you click on this, you can see the actual function execution. Do you mean this, or?
Yeah, this is exactly what I meant. Right.
Also, you can click on this on an. No, in this case, it didn't work. But like,
you mean it would take you to the function and the code?
Sorry?
It would take you to the function and the code.
Yeah. This I think this should also work. Oops. Wow. Let's go. Nice work. Okay, funky. Location is not valid. Somewhere it works. Now it.
All right, cool.
Yeah. So basically, this works. But for example, here it didn't work. I have to check out why. But yeah. Also, there's this other function that you can use, which I drive-by implemented. I have to call it like this. Which is basically make it like an in-place sample of a value. And I need this one, and now I can start sampling my array. And so basically, now you can click on this thing. Doesn't show. Nice. That's weird. Usually, it will show you like a graph of how that worked. But this is also like I think if I profile that, this will also turn up in the timeline. Yeah, start sampling. Okay, now it broke. But the idea is to also to fill up the timeline with actual data from the debugger, so you can inspect the values. For example, if you have a mouse callback, you can just use this sample command to pass in the event object that's being passed in, and then you can quickly see in the timeline where the click event is and where the track event is, and so on.
So it's just gonna show the object, and you don't have to rely on the trace function in the console anymore.
Yes.
All right, great.
I can try to replicate it, but I'm pretty sure clicks only, and now. Okay, sample it. Okay, that's not start sampling. That's the wrong one. And now I can just event object. So I can give it a label and then the event. And now every time I'm doing this, it will show me the event in place. And if I do this in the profiler or doing a profiling session, I can see now here in the UI thread, there's this pane callback, and so the mouse callback triggers the mouse callback on the scripting thread, locks the scripting thread. And if I go in here, then I can see the actual object that's passed into the event. So here's clicked. If I go to the next one, where is it? Be this here. How clicked is false, and then I can backtrack the entire order of events using this stuff. So yeah. Anyways, I think I need to stop rambling about this stuff. But I'm happy to gather feedback in the forum once you all start using this.
Well, thank you for taking the time to share that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna be a very powerful tool, right? Once you end it, I know I spend a lot of time just tracing objects in the console. That was more than I like.
I mean, I always have the developer experience of Visual Studio in comparison to HISE, and it's still the ability to really set breakpoints and inspect the entire data structure down to the last byte is something that's much more that makes it the developing within Visual Studio much more powerful than within HISE. But this at least gives you the ability to inspect the data points at any given time. Also, this this function, if you call it with an array, it will show it as a graph. So you don't see it. Sorry. So if I'm now passing any kind of array in there, then it visualizes as graph with the same WASD keys for navigation. This also works with buffer objects and so on. Because this is also one of the pain points in developing if you're looking at too much numbers and trying to figure out having these visualized as a graph is much more powerful.
Guys, I gotta take off. It's really great to see everyone. Take care.
Sure. Take care. I mean, we can. Have we lost? I know David is down. down at the end. I mean, we can, from my point, if there are any kind of things that you want to discuss, we can also wrap it up. So basically, I've talked about as much as I can do about this new stuff, but I'm happy to talk about anything that that's on your mind, or if you have any kind of topics you want to discuss.
Sorry, someone wanted to say something. Heisenberg?
No, please go ahead.
I wanted to ask, since we're on the topic of debugging, can you or someone do like a proper tutorial on how to debug a plugin inside Visual Studio? And what exactly are we looking for? And how can we then use that information to either try and solve the problem ourselves or report it back to the forum? Like, what are you interested in when there's a crash that we're experiencing? So either in a compiled plugin or in HISE on our system, what do you want to see, and what do you want us to give you? And how do we do that, right?
Yeah, good question. Basically, like the best information I can get is like a line of code in the HISE code base where it crashes. So I mean, if you have a little bit of time, I can just like demonstrate the basic setup, how to debug it, and what can be done the best way. I'm just on Windows now, so it's limited on Windows, but like on Mac OS, it's pretty much the same.
I know of a crash that currently works. So if you need one to test, just let me know.
Yeah, I mean, I would deliberately add like one line of code that crashes, so that we can know that it works, and then show you how it looks in the debugger. So maybe we can. I mean, we can do this as kind of a wrap up thing. If there's any other questions?
I have one quick one. I've been banging my head against the wall about this one. How do we properly set OpenGL up within HISE? We set the flag in the producer, as well as once you load HISE in the project settings, you need to add the flag and then also use OpenGL, and then it should be functioning within the plugin.
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't used it for quite some time now. I can just like look back in like an.
You gotta set the flag. It's in the XML file in app data folder of your plugin. And
that
then
one too.
There's general settings.xml, and then it's not gonna set itself automatically for whatever reason, in my experience. So you gotta open up the XML and you gotta set the flag yourself to 1, and then it should work after that. If you have OpenGL enabled in the project settings, or rather HISE settings.
Mm-hmm. But that'll work even after you're distributing the plugin?
Well, I'm not exactly sure. I think that you either have to distribute the XML file yourself, or you have to unplug it and start. You do a check.
I think you can specify like a
file
default.
system.
I think you can specify a default value of what this setting in the general settings should look like. I can quickly look in the source code. I'm pretty sure it's there somewhere. So basically, the idea behind this and why this is so complicated is that you basically want to be able to control whether to use OpenGL at all, and then which should be like the default. Because for like a normal plugin that might benefit from OpenGL, it's good to have it possible, but have the default off because of some things that might go wrong on some systems. On the other hand, on some plugins that rely on OpenGL being enabled, you definitely want to have it as the default value. So that's why it's scattered across all these different places. Let me just look in the HISE source code whether I can find like a definitive answer to that.
Okay.
So like one of the things that you definitely need to enable in your project settings, but I'm sure you know this, is you have to define this preprocessor, and then it should be able to do this. And now let me take a look in the source code, probably in here.
Right, but that's only going to do it on generation, right? So when it generates the general settings XML, if that should probably already be in there while you're working on a plugin, no?
Come again? I didn't understand that.
That file causes the general settings XML to be generated with the flag set to 1. But if you're already working on a plugin,
I think this flag in general enables the ability of using OpenGL at all. And now I'm just searching in this source code for the other preprocessor that defines which should be like the default value.
because just to confirm that I had it working like 3 days ago in a compiled plugin without using this specific preprocessor, and all I did was I enabled OpenGL for HISE, and I called the settings enable OpenGL, and then I set the flag in the XML file. That's all I did, and it worked in the compiled plugin.
All right. So I just found this beauty in the source code. Okay, the formatting is all over the place. Can I use this one to add some text? Nice. Good one. So you can see now. Can you see it all in this?
I think you need to share your screen again.
I have this white space. I have this whiteboard enabled, but okay. Okay, then I can also show you like the actual screen. So basically, so I would suggest try to add both of these flags. So HISE use OpenGL for plugin as well as HISE default OpenGL value with one into your extra definitions, and then it should like create like in general settings XML file out of the box which enables it.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. Any other? I think David had a question about compiling nodes. If I don't compile the network, but I do compile the plugin, does this also compile the script effect? Yeah, there was a brief moment in time where this was the case, but then I backrolled this edition because there were some issues that Aaron and the other guys were having with Faust code. So right now we are back at the state where the plugin export process does not compile any nodes and replace the script affix. So you have to do this for yourself. You can. There is this replace script affix modules flag in this compile networks dialog, which performs the step if necessary. But I think we decided that this is like the most frictionless way for the most scenarios, right?
What you mean the export process, the workflow?
Yeah.
I think this is the most error-free. Like you showed, you can use the hard-coded. You can manually replace the hard-coded effects. I still think. I mean, I wrote a very detailed post in that compilation thread, and so I think that you users, or rather, us developers, should not necessarily be punished for not wanting to go through these hoops, which leave you with a dynamic library or with a DLL on your computer. And so if it works in HISE in the IDE, when you click compile in the compile plugin, it should work too. That's ideally the goal. And the performance should be optimized if it can be optimized. So there's stuff that cannot be compiled, to my knowledge, like I don't know, global cables. There's some other stuff. And
I think global
if it
cables can be compiled now. Faust nodes and SNAX nodes would be the things that require compilation.
Yeah, right. So if there's something that prevents compilation, then fine. But if not, then you should do whatever you can to possibly allow us to make use of the extra performance gained from using hard-coded networks. Now, the other side is leaving the networks open for like network access that I also showed in a forum, where you can directly get node values or set node parameter values from script without using parameters, just by directly grabbing the node reference and the parameter reference. And if that's something that someone wants to use, then sure, you don't want to have allow compilation flag enabled in the network, but that should not prevent use of Faust and SNAX. So in that case, the compiler in the backend should just compile the nodes themselves, the Faust nodes or the SNAX nodes, put them back into the network instead of the raw nodes, and then leave the network as it is. That will kind of be the end goal, where the what you have in HISE works when you press compile without having to go through this flowchart of what to do if you're using Faust, or if you're using SNAX, or if you're using network access, and navigating this mess, basically.
I get where you're coming from. I mean, but it somehow, or maybe I'm misunderstanding how your proposed solution would be, but somehow that contradicts your requirement of being able to keep the stuff editable, right? Because at one point I had this process where if you click, so if you load up a project with like a Faust node and you click on compile, it automatically compiles the network and replaces the script FX version with the hard-coded counterpart, which is exactly the thing that you say when you say you want it to be like optimized in behind the scenes, right?
Right. That's one way to do it, and that's so ultimately I think that if it's possible to compile the network, and if we have imagine this, we have a network with 10 nodes. One of these nodes is a Faust node, and you if you don't click allow compilation, but you compile the plugin, then the network will not get compiled and Faust won't work, right? So in that case, but it works in HISE, it works in the IDE. So now what we have to do, and that's actually what HISE is going to do right now. It's going to remind us that we have to click allow compilation. But if we do that, then we lose direct access to the network. So in a scenario where we are not clicking allow compilation on a network, you should, or rather HISE should say, all right, they don't want to compile the network, they want to leave the network open, but we still need to deal with Faust and SNAX, and it's just gonna compile the Faust nodes. Like there was a workflow, I don't know, a couple commits ago, maybe before we started with all this compilation mess, where you basically compiled the network, and then the way you used Faust nodes was you just used the compiled Faust nodes, not the networks. So in that case, HISE would compile just the Faust nodes, just the DSP files or the SNAX files, and then put these nodes instead of the raw files nodes, connect the parameters. It should all be the same, right? The ideas stay the same, and then compile the plugin with the network still open. If the allow compilation flag is set to true, then it should not do that and just compile the whole network, and that way you get the performance boost of compiling the whole script node network.
Yeah. Okay. No. I think I understand. I need to go into like the actual code of the exporter. Because this is not like there's not like a trivial solution for this, because there's like this kind of factory mechanism behind the scenes which kind of creates the actual nodes from the string it grabs from the XML from the script node network. And I think that like the Faust nodes by default are not like propagated into this factory. So it might require like a bigger refactoring than it seems to be. But I can understand now like how this would like ease the workflow. It will still leave like a few things. There's still like a few things that are left that are not handled by this. For example, if you're using expression cables, this requires the entire network to be compiled, because you can't compile like only this expression node as a node and do the same thing.
Christoph is frozen for me.
cables.
Anyone else?
Oh, I'm frozen?
Oh, you were for me.
Yeah, you're back now.
Okay, I'm back. Oh, sorry. Okay. Where did you lose me?
About 15 seconds ago.
Okay. Yeah, I was just rambling about like the internals of why this is not a one-line fix, but I understand like the how this might be like a finally a solution to that back and forth between us. The problem
What did
is
you say that there's a problem with expression cables, like the math expression node?
Yeah, I mean, what you're proposing now is to like have this kind of being able to use certain kind of nodes within an uncompiled network, but this would require them to be compiled as own entities. While this is perfectly fine for Faust and Snax nodes, there are a few nodes like the cable expression nodes or the math expression nodes where this wouldn't work, because I would have to like redesign the entire way how these things are structured, because basically they are not compiled as separate nodes and loaded into the network, but like basically directly copied into the generated code for a compiled network. But I guess like perfect is the enemy of good, and if this workflow allows you to use Faust nodes and Snax nodes, and then you can still say, okay, for like this, if you want to use cable expression nodes, then you really have to compile the network.
Yeah, I guess that makes them the final frontier of the whole experience in that case. So, but even if you still wanted to use to have a network open and write your math in, I guess you can just create a Snax file or a Faust file and just write it in directly, right? That's still it's a workaround for the expression nodes. You don't see the expression right there in.
Yeah.
You don't see the expression there, but you can still use the file. You can still use the.
Yeah, I don't think there's like an equivalent as a Snax node for the cable expression, which operates on this volume on this parameter modulation layer. But yeah, for like this for the math.expression node, you can just use a Snax shaper or something like that.